Antigua and Barbuda makes a counter-proposal for the purchase of most of Barbados' shares in Liat. And in sport, Guyana seeking to take back its title in the Caribbean Area Squash Association Championship. I'm Ricardo Robertson. This is Caribbean in 10 for Friday, July 12. I'll be back with the details after the break.
Let's talk a little bit about flowers.
Okay, so we actually, so for flowers, flowers is actually, the video right now is the flowers coming out of my mouth, right? Which is like this kind of play on, kind of rejecting the norm, right? Of like, you know, the flowers song is really about like, bring me you, bring me an apology.
Are you guys having a good time so far?
So far, yeah. Having a blast.
Yeah? How the vibes so far?
Vibes alright, man. Early settings. We just there go and hold it, you see.
You're living here now?
10 years.
Yeah?
10 years.
And how you find the event so far?
You know, it's a Facebook you see and do.
The Antigua and Barbuda government says it's not aware of any breakdown in the negotiations with Barbados regarding the sale of that island's shares in the cash-strapped regional airline Liat. Now, media reports in Barbados had quoted unnamed sources saying that the talks, which began a week ago, broke down after only a few hours. But in a message sent to CMC News, Antigua and Barbuda's Prime Minister Gaston Brown said that, to his knowledge, negotiations have not been stalled. He told CMC News that a counter-offer was made by Antigua, but he is not at liberty to discuss the details of it at this time. The Barbados media reports had indicated that Bridgetown was not impressed with St. John's initial proposal. Antigua and Barbuda is seeking to become the largest shareholder government of the airline and is in negotiations with Barbados to acquire most of that country's shareholding in the Antigua-based airline. The other shareholders are Dominica, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines and Grenada. Antigua and Barbuda currently holds 34% of the shares, and if it succeeds in convincing Bridgetown to part with its Liat shares, it would have 81% of the airline. Barbados's Attorney General Dale Marshall says Parliament has acted to amend all laws, including the Constitution, to allow the local courts to impose the death penalty if warranted. Marshall was responding to a newspaper article published yesterday which indicated that High Court judges have found themselves caught between a ruling by the Caribbean Court of Justice on the mandatory imposition of the death penalty and statutes which have not yet been amended. The Nation newspaper reported that with the last murder trial possibly done in May 2018, judges as well as a senior defense attorney and a prosecutor are urging Parliament to make the amendments as soon as possible. But Marshall said in a statement that while he doesn't want to get into an argument with judges outside the court, he does not agree with that there is any conundrum. He pointed to the CCJ ruling in the Barbadian case, following which Parliament acted to amend all such laws, including the Constitution, to allow the courts to impose the death penalty. Now, Marshall said that in the decision in the Barbadian case, the CCJ had ruled on the constitutionality of certain provisions of the Offences Against the Persons Act relating to the mandatory death penalty. A High Court judge in Antigua has sentenced a St. Vincent and the Grenadines-born police officer to 16 years in jail after he was found guilty of having sex with his 11-year-old child back in 2017. Justice Ian Morley issued an order restricting publication of the names of the parties in the case to protect the victim, who was reportedly bullied in school after word of the incident got around. The child had reportedly expressed a desire to kill herself since the incident. In addition to the prison term, the man was ordered to pay the victim 40,000 EC dollars in compensation or face an additional 6 months in prison. Justice Morley told the police officer, who was on remand prior to pleading guilty 2 months ago, to the charge that he had betrayed the trust of the child. The St. Vincent and the Grenadines government has approved a number of cannabis cultivation licenses. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said the Medical Cannabis Authority made the recommendations after examining some of the applications received so far and conducting due diligence. He said the authority, through its chief executive, Gerald Thompson, and Minister of Agriculture, Sabato Caesar, would provide the details. But he said that for traditional cultivators, 21 licenses which were recommended have been approved. 8 of them are for groups comprising about 100 people. Now, Gonsalves added that there are 3 nationals who have been granted traditional licenses who are not traditional cultivators, and 10 companies have been registered that are owned in the majority by non-nationals, while others have nationals involved. And stay with us, your Midday Sport is next. 12-time regional champions Guyana will hope to break their 3-year drought when they take on the rest of the region in the Caribbean Area Squash Association Championships in Trinidad. The team left for Trinidad today. Newsroom's Akeem Green has that story.
In 2017, 12 years of a stronghold on the title ended for Guyana. Even more heartbreaking, it ended at home. The second place finish followed them the next year in Jamaica, where they came inches to regaining the precious trophy, but Barbados again pipped ahead. It is now 3 years in the quest to return atop the summit, and there is enthusiasm bubbling, albeit reserved, that they could do the job in Trinidad and Tobago from July 14 to 20 at the Queen's Park Oval.
We have a chance. I wouldn't say it's the best of chances because, as I've said, the girls, it's going to go down to how things go on a particular day. Because we probably definitely win the boys. I think we win the boys team title. We probably finish second in the girls, and it just depends on how Barbados does in both the boys and the girls. So we'll see how it goes. But as I say, it all depends on what happens on a given day. But for sure we win. I think we win the boys, and we'll give a good account to ourselves in the girls. We may finish second, but
And Barbados had a strong start to the Netball World Cup campaign when they crushed Singapore 69 goals to 34 on day 1 of the World Cup in Liverpool today. And of course, we'll get more of that story in our major newscast at 6:30. That's Caribbean in 10. Good afternoon.